Flame on! How's everybody doing tonight? I'm here with my special guest, Nick Lenz. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Now, due to some scheduling conflicts, we are going to do part two of the October solicitation, but that'll likely either be later this week, or early next week. But I will do a final official announcement in my community tab when we get to that point.
hmm
But for now, let's for our return to Anime Blaze. Let's talk about Overlord the movie, Sacred Kingdom.
Yep, this was technically the third ever movie released for Overlord, but first original one because the first two are compilation movies
Recap films, basically.
of the first season, which I don't think they add anything new. Like
A
unlike
couple of
I kind of like the recaps they did for Attack on Titan season one, where they did add stuff. This one, no, there was nothing really new that I saw added. From what I can tell, anyways, when it comes to recap movies for the first two seasons of the show.
I agree. Now, the premise of this movie, okay, light novel wise, this is technically, if I'm correct, Nick, this is volumes 12 and 13, which Nick has physical copies of. How about that? He's a little pixelated, but if you look closely, you can make out the covers. But yeah, this technically volumes 12 and 13, though season 4 is roughly leads up to volume 14, or at least the majority of season
Yeah,
4.
depth was 11, 10, 11, and 14. This is like roughly in the middle of the season. Because after they'd have book 11, they skip straight to the war stuff, book 14. They skip over these two books. Now, the main reason why this was adapted for a movie is because the main cast of the show is barely in it. Like,
Yes.
it's a lot of, like, the only character who's in the whole movie who was a familiar character for a lot of people was Ainz. I mean, Albedo does appear in the movie, but she's nothing more than a cameo, and she has like 2 lines.
3.
The entire movie. And that's kind of almost the gist of her time in these 2 books. And I am not going to blame the movie on that, per se. I blame the books for that.
Yeah, but and for confusion, no, this does not tie into. I want to say he was the guardian of the 6th floor, but I forget his name right now. We're live, by the way. But no, that's into where if you go into season 4 where he sneaks off for a bit after making Ainz' hero persona look good. No, that was a completely separate scheme involving the princess. That had nothing to do with this movie.
Yeah.
It's referenced, but it does not play a role in the season.
I think you're meaning Demiurge.
Demiurge, thank you. Yes.
Because the first part of the movie is sort of a loose follow-up to a plot thread from season 2.
Yes.
Because it brings back his mass persona. But he doesn't, like, in case you're wondering, where are the battle maids? There's only one in the whole movie. It's basically Demiurge in his disguise plus some other demons.
The battle maids, excuse me, they do get a little bit, but only one gets a major supporting role. But they do contribute.
Yes. And if you read the Yin Press translations of these books, some of these characters do not get the correct names, or even Ainz' country does not get the correct name. Because in this movie, in the manga adaptation, the Wiki page, the fan translations of Overlord all refer to Ainz' kingdom as the Sorcerer Kingdom. Yin Press refers to it as the Nation of Darkness.
Yeah, that's the gamble you take. Unless it's official media like Viz or something like or Shonen Jump. Now, granted, I'm using manga examples, but you get what I'm saying. Chances are it's either going to be heavily censored or not the correct translations at all.
Yeah, in case you're curious, there is a Overlord manga,
Yes.
which does adapt, but for some weird reason, like they collected in volumes. They stopped in 19 and relaunched as New World And then for some reason, they put the manga in hiatus. They never finished adapting the light novels. I think they adapted to, I think was the equivalent of probably like book 9, I think it was, of the light novels. I think as far as I got with it.
I know they got past the first season adaptation wise.
Yes.
I know they got past the first season. I don't think they got up to season 2.
I don't think so, no.
Because
I'm not sure what happened. It could have been the writer of the manga, because the writer of the manga page, I don't think it's the same person who writes the light. I don't think it's the same one who writes light novels.
No, it's a completely separate person to my knowledge. But yeah, a lot of mangaka, even for licensed promotional material like Dragon Ball Heroes, for example, they were going through a lot of burnout at the time. Like this was leading up, even up to, if not in between COVID. A lot of mangaka were going through burnout at the time. Even another manga that got an anime adaptation went through burnout. And that story ended up being completely rushed and wrapped. Belmont Chronicles, Bell Hut Chronicles, something like that.
There was also God of High School. That got a rush adaptation. I heard that the anime is terrible.
Oh, it is god awful.
They cut a lot of the quiet moments from the action. They just do action, and people just hated it. I'd never seen it, so I don't have an opinion on it, but that's what I've heard people about it.
Yeah, that's the biggest critique of God of High School. It's just it never slows down, I should say.
Yep.
But back to Overlord. Yes, like we said, this mostly involves volumes 12 and 13. It covers this sub-series, not the theocracy, but but an additional nation that mostly keeps to themselves, but they're overrun by Demiurge's demon horde. And
I reference season 4 as a ally of, like, if you watch the anime and then get to this movie, you basically understand how they became an ally of the Sorcerer Kingdom.
Yes. Because season 4 referenced it, but they never mentioned the Sacred Kingdom directly. But if you actually paid attention, you pick up on those references. But please,
for some reason, season 4, like if you watch it, like some of the stuff they put in the season, like, wait, when did this happen? An example of this: one of Alberto's sisters, who looks like the ring girl from
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, where she's got scissors. You think, oh, she looks like a creepy girl, but she's actually quite nice because she likes kids. Where they cut the subplot out, where she and the character who was a dog maid, who's voiced by Jamie Marceri, who freed a bunch of kids. And that got them in trouble, and they got put in this ice prison. And anybody who probably watched season 4 and didn't read the light novels, a lot of people probably raising the question, excuse me, when did it happen?
That took place within this gap.
Some people will probably be asking about that if they never read these light novels. If they just stick to the anime, they probably be confused about this. Like, oh wait, Alberto's got sisters? Yeah, she does.
Yeah, they debuted in, I want to say technically they debuted at the tail end of volume 11, but they played a subplot within this gap.
Yes. Though they do not appear in the movie. And the anime only features one of the sisters.
Yes.
I think it was the eldest sister.
The eldest sister.
Yes, because Albedo is the middle of 3 sisters. But she's more popular than the other sisters are. Because she's beautiful.
Yes.
And so is a voice actress.
Indeed.
I know because I met her.
You've mentioned that many times, buddy. But yeah, back to this. It boils down to, yes, Demiurge's monster persona, demon persona, excuse me. They raid the Sorcerer Kingdom. They take the main, I want to say the princess, either the princess or the priestess. Again, I watched this movie.
I think it was Priestess. The movie was released here back in November of last year.
Yeah, like they kind of shadow dropped it, believe it or not.
Because I kind of knew it was released, and I was lucky that I picked a day that, because I was checking when they released a dub. Here's the weird thing with the dub for this movie. the movie I went to had one showing all day of a dub, and all the rest of the showings was subbed. But yeah, for My Hero, they get a lot of showings for dub, but not for sub. But yeah, Overlord doesn't get the same love, which makes no sense at all.
Shonen is more mainstream. At least that's what they recognize with anime.
Yeah, but in the case of Overlord, there are people who are fans of Overlord the anime, and I'm sure people who love the dub, but a lot of people be bummed out about the fact there's only one show that if you miss it, you have to wait the next day to see it. I was lucky to get the right time to get to see it, and I saw it at because I didn't go because this movie I saw in West Chapel.
Hmm.
They have a theater there. I saw this movie there. I saw Shin Kamen Rider there. I think I saw the last My Hero Academia movie that came out. I saw that there. Uh, I think I did see One Piece Red there too. That was the last one was released. But of course, I did see the Dragon Ball movies, the last two released. I saw them where I lived, because my theater just happened to be showing, including the Demon Slayer movie, Mugen Train,
Nice.
which the story behind how they got it was that the employees told the owner, "Hey, this movie is making tons of money, like a lot of money." Like he probably wasn't interested, but once he heard the movie making money, he's like, "Sold! I'm getting the movie right now." And I went to go see it, loved it, and I saw it dubbed because the dub for Demon Slayer is fantastic. But back to Overlord.
Yes. But thank you for that elaborate trivia, Nick. Always glad to have it.
Yeah, in case you're curious how long the movie is, I think it's like almost 90 minutes.
2 hour. Wait, Overlord. At least the one version I saw was 2 hours and 15.
Yeah. Uh, it didn't. That's why I think it was a couple hours. It felt like it wasn't 2 hours when you
No,
finished.
it went. The pacing went through relatively fast.
Yeah, I don't think it was too fast, but it was fast.
A lot was cut out due to time, even though although I'm not too familiar with the light novel version, I know enough of the lore to recognize. Okay, a lot was cut out for time in
Yeah.
content.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, deeper detail about the head knight. The head knight to where she wasn't as bad in this movie, but in the light novel she was a pain. She was
Yes.
a pain. And her breakdown in those same volumes, I want to say the scene where she finally breaks down from everything is at the tail end of volume 13. I could be wrong, but her breakdown is just phenomenal. The dread, the confirmation of the priestess is dead, the complete and utter failure of it all.
Yep.
Like it is way more impactful in the movie. I'm not gonna spoil it, but let's just say it's not as impactful. She does, I mean, the conflict ensues. She does get a bit of a comeuppance for her attitude, but the payoff is nowhere near as good. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's just not as good.
Yeah, and I talked to Sarah Weinhubba. She's actually the voice of our lead character in the movie, the one who's sort of an apprentice who works with Ainz the whole movie.
Yes.
Yes. I didn't know she voiced her at all. I couldn't really tell because the voice was a little different than she usually does. Uh, the credits did not list a dub cast for some reason. I had to go to Crunchyroll website to find out who the heck was dubbing these people. Like the
Mm.
day after I saw the movie, and according to Sarah Weinhoff, that's standard Crunchyroll. They would do that.
Yeah, they would unless it was a simul dub release. Unless it was a simul release, they will not reference the dub cast on screen.
Yeah.
Unless it
Uh,
was a simulcast. Excuse me.
I don't think this movie was like. I never saw any promotion from Crunchyroll for this movie when it was released. I'm sure the movie did make a good amount of money.
It did. It did.
It did, but I don't think it was promoted by Crunchyroll that I know of.
No, 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 no.
And this is not the only movie they did this with. They also did with the last My Hero Academia movie that came out. They didn't promote it. It was promoted by Toei.
Like I said, this most shonen gets a lot of love because again, it's in the key demographic for prepubescent to adolescent young men. That is a key demographic in anime and manga. Almost now, and some statistics shoujo markets better population wise, but again, that's a topic for a different day. But at the end of the day, you're going to get more simulcasts and simul releases off mainline animes than novel adaptation. That's just the way of the business. The variety
Yeah,
is there. It's just from a business standpoint, you're not going to get as much love.
yeah, and the thing with the My Hero Academia dub, unlike with Funimation that was a licensed dub, under Crunchyroll it's a contracted dub. This is
Yeah,
something that Phillips mentioned on his Twitch stream about that.
he did.
Yep.
If we do find that, link is in the description. If we ever do find this, because this is technically live right now, so you're welcome to comment.
Yeah, I know about this because he mentioned, because I basically been on his Twitch stream, not like in person, but I've listened to his Twitch stream, so that's why I know about the fact that My Hero is now a contracted dub. This one, I think, is a contracted dub too, because Overlord was actually dubbed, like all 4 seasons were dubbed by Funimation.
Yes.
And I'm glad Crunchyroll kept the dub cast, the one who was the people who in this movie, like Ainz, Albedo, Demiurge. I'm glad all their all their characters
came back.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Nick.
Yes. I'm glad they all came back, because I think if Crunchyroll ever replaced them, they would get a lot of angry reactions from the fans.
Oh, they would. And this is coming from someone who actually does bring the heat. They would get a lot of flack if they try to force the dub cast out. Like it would not be pretty.
Yeah, as far as I could tell, they have, when it comes to dubs, when they get these anime, I don't think they've ever replaced anybody that I could think of. Well, that they've had a few anime get released recently where the lead character gets replaced. I do not know why this is. It is recently with Reborn as a Vending Machine, where the lead voice actor got replaced. There was no announcement about it at all. Also, this is not the same voice actor season 1, because I think it was like Gareth something. I think his name was the guy who voiced Boxer season 1, and season 2 was Oz Nintendo. I've tried asking. No one's giving me the answer. Why in the world this happened? This also happened with I'm Killing Slime's 300 Years Maxed Out, where the lead voice actors got replaced in the current season after 2 episodes. Like, sometimes there is a reason, and sometimes there is not a reason. It just, people don't wonder, why are you replacing voice actors for, Crunchyroll? It does happen, but it doesn't happen a lot, per se. That's the honest truth, man, when it comes to that. Ainz himself doesn't do a lot in the movie, per se. He is still the main character of the franchise, but he's not the main character of the story. He is virtually a supporting character in his own story, which is odd for people who are fans of Overlord. And like, he's there, but he doesn't do a lot.
To be fair, I do commend that, because that allows the Sacred Kingdom cast to stand on their own rather than just relying on Ainz or Momonga the entire time.
Yes.
It doesn't make, and not to mention, especially by this point, Momonga is way too overpowered, and the whole thing's just if you know Overlord, you probably already figured this out by now. A dog and pony show to build more influence.
Yep.
So the best scenes are kind of when Ainz isn't present. Those are kind of the best scenes in this movie, because you actually get the feel for the supporting cast.
Yep.
And but Nick, please continue.
Yeah. So the way it works, like Demiurge attacks them, and then they go to the Rias's kingdom for assistance, which of course they bring all the main characters from that kingdom, with the exception of their chief warrior, which I know is a bit of a spoiler, but it happened like 7 years ago. He died in season 3. So this is of course before the war that happened, the second half of season 4. So the kingdom is still around. That's not been destroyed yet by Ainz. So they ask for help. They politely decline. Though they do cut out some characters from this scene. The Blue Rose Knights, the one led by the niece of a noble, they're completely cut out of this scene. Because they're in the book, but they're not in the movie. Probably because I'm guessing probably the reason it's not just due to time, probably because they had no lines. But they were there because there is illustration being there at this meeting. Which I would have thought they would have been there, given the fact they're primary characters for this particular group, but they don't appear. So then, like, oh, why don't you go to the Sorcerer Kingdom? Not the Kingdom of Darkness, you impress. The Sorcerer Kingdom, which they do. And they go to not Nazarick, which is not featured in the movie. I don't think it's even featured in the fourth season of the show. It's like after season 3, they stopped featuring Nazarick, the primary home of the characters. Not even seen at all. That's due to design because it's not featured at all. So they go visit Ainz in his capital building with his gigantic throne they brought from Nazarick. That's literally, basically, probably a ripoff of the throne from Game of Thrones, where it's like all swords.
Yeah, I got the reference.
Yeah, I'm sure that the writer of I have the name of the guy here, Kenogi Miyama. I'm sure he's a fan of Game of Thrones. That's probably the reason why he made the throne like that.
Fun fact, Song of Ice and Fire, the main mythology in which Game of Thrones is based off, actually was first written in the late 90s. It didn't get picked up by HBO till 2011. I believe the first book came out in 96.
I think so, because I haven't read the novels for Game of Thrones. I just know about it because I've seen the famous picture of the throne. My cousin has seen the show, so... And I think the show is on the streaming service HBO Max, if I'm not mistaken.
HBO Max. It was recently rebranded. Though, to be fair, it does kind of fall off compared to the source material. Season 8, infamously so. But George R.R. Martin, let's be honest, he's already established. He's likely never going to finish the book. Best case scenario, he's just going to retire and live off his nest egg and then groom an apprentice to take over the story after he passes away. And that's best case scenario.
Final season of Attack on Titan to be like the final season of Game of Thrones, except that was pretty planned to be that way instead of like what happened with the show like that.
Oh no, with Game of increasing expectation. The show, at least with Game of Thrones, that just fell apart. But at least with what was the other one you mentioned?
Attack on Titan. Because I've heard for anime news that he compared the Aaron's arc in season 4 to similar to the main character from Game of Thrones, where he just becomes like a villain.
Ultimately. To an extent, though, Jon Snow... Spoilers, by the way. Jon Snow was never really a villain. He grows into being a co-protagonist. He grows into his own over the course of the story. But he's mostly a support, mostly confined to the wall. At least during the Civil War portion. Now, once you get to the Long Night and once you get to the White Walkers, yeah. But for the most of the series is the Civil War or War of Five Kings. That is the majority... At least from the show's adaptation, a majority of the series. Jon Snow barely plays a role in any of that. But I get
exactly what they played Black Knight Eternals. I still haven't seen Eternals, despite the fact I've heard people have had not a lot of nice things to say about the movie.
It's mid, admittedly. I'm just gonna be honest. It is completely mid. It's overhated, and the marketing for the film definitely didn't do it any favors. But at least in my mind, it's mid.
I barely saw any marketing. The only thing I saw was like somebody destroyed a table that's made by IKEA. Someone put like a meme online where you have Cersei and Icarus, where it's like Cersei, they put a line that's like, "Kiss me, I'm bored." Yes, that was a meme they put online about that scene. But they put these two together. And when I heard Black Knight, I was like, wait, what's Black Knight doing in Eternals? The only connection he has to Eternals is the fact he dated Cersei. That's it. Because he has virtual connection to them at all.
Holy crap! We got 40 people live right now.
Really? That's it. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you. I thank you. But again, if you
If anyone wants to comment, please feel
please
free to
do,
comment.
because we are live right now. This is not pre-recorded. We are live.
Yes. So they go visit Ainz and the Sorcerer Kingdom. Albedo was there for this scene. I think she was 1 hour time after this.
Yeah, one other
And
time.
yeah, and that's it. And the thing is, like we said, it is not the movie's fault. The fact she's barely featured in this movie, it's the book's fault.
I agree.
And there's no denying she's a fan favorite character. I'm sure people who saw this movie probably didn't read the light novels. But wait, that's it for Albedo? One of the most popular characters the whole series, and yet she's featured in 2 scenes for like 5 minutes of screen time. Yeah, I think people were so disappointed with that. So they ask him for help. They politely say no, and they go to leave. And then Ainz pays a visit. Is like, yeah, my kingdom's not going to help you, but I will. And he goes with them to deal with the with Demiurge plot. So he basically follows it the whole movie, being their kind of their muscle.
And the actual the head knight does try to at least politically barter or manipulate the situation, but at least in the movie it never goes that way. Like, oh, maybe we can have them take each other out or try to value justice. And I'm just like, this is the part of the movie, admittedly, it does get annoying because we get it. She's uptight, she's prudish, but you have to realize, like, hey, you are completely outclassed here. Show some freaking humility. But she does get her comeuppance by the end of the film. It's just the book was better. This is one of those instances where the book was better.
Yes. So they go to the kingdom, takes a bit of time, and our new protagonist, she's kind of made Ainz's assistant in the movie, where she basically is charged with keeping an eye on him.
Yep.
Because it's not because basically he's overpowered, because if, of course, the characters don't know the fact he's overpowered, the viewer knows that. They keep an eye on him in order to avoid a political situation.
They do.
Yep, that's primarily her job, because her thing was like cleaning stables, and then now she's basically being like the assistant to a king.
She's a squire. She's the squire girl, basically.
Yeah.
But which again, we're probably, you know what? I'm not gonna be a purist about it. Please, Nick, continue.
Yeah. So Ainz basically teaches her a lot of stuff about. They chat about each other. Ainz does not reveal anything about much of himself. He does not reveal the fact he actually is originally human, trapped in his avatar's body. At all, he does not reveal that. Not even his floor masters know that at all. They don't even know that he's actually human. They know nothing about that at all. All they know is that he is their boss, and they worship him. The only people he does tell that he actually is from Japan is Tanya from Saga Tanya Evil in Isekai Quartet. And, of course, also, Aqua does figure it out in the show, but in the Overlord show itself,
no one knows.
Yeah, no one knows this at all.
And Isekai Quartet is overly meta, so it kind of works in that context.
And plus, it's a comedy.
Yeah, but inverse, nobody knows.
The best way you can call Isekai Quartet, it's basically a promotional tool for the 4 main shows that the characters in Overlord, Konosuba, ReZero. They don't do much with ReZero, but they're there. And what was the 4th one? Oh, Saga. There was Overlord, Saga Evil, Konosuba, and ReZero. Those are the 4 they have for season 1. In season 2, they added the Raisha Hero to the cast and Cautious Hero. The Cautious Hero, they had like 2 characters. because they only had 2 regular characters in all 7 books. Just the main character and the goddess who follows him.
And contrary to popular belief, Eminence and Shadow is not included. That was a fan parody featuring Sid Kagano, though it
I
has not been dubbed.
Yeah, but I think it is published by the same company who publishes the other series in Japan, Kushida.
But it's not connected to the main show.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I kind of wish they were. Like, if you want to think of like, probably like one character, if he ever, I don't know if his novel was published for them, but I don't think he would work for this series. Like, what if Isekai Quartet brought in Goblin Slayer? He'd be like, "Where are the goblins?"
It would easily ruin the vibe because Goblin Slayer is notoriously dark.
Yes, and plus, if he saw the goblins from Overlord, he would kill them. He would kill them instantly because he hates goblins. The only one that might work is that Demogorgon is a slime.
Yeah, that would fit the vibe perfectly. Not gonna lie,
because it's kind of fun in the show. I mean, it was surprising that a series like all the 4 shows that basically it's a quartet. The other one that's actually sort of a comedy is Konosuba, because ReZero is dark, Overlord is kind of dark, Saga TV is kind of dark too, yeah. but Konosuba is the only one who actually is funny.
Bit of perv humor at times, but it's mostly a comedy.
Yeah, but it does go over the top, but not way over the top with the comedy.
Yeah. A good balance.
And it's kind of weird, though. Like, I get the fact Isekai is not canon to Overlord, but if you think about it, Overlord is the only one you can kind of place where they're placing in the show, because I think in the show itself they have it placed just after season 3 of the anime. But it's just before they move into the Ries's kingdom, move into a new capital. When the first episode starts up, the other ones are just completely random of where they take place.
I agree. So if you ever do take the time to watch Isekai Quartet, go all the way up to season 3, check out Isekai Quartet, mostly the Overlord focused episodes, and then go right back, maybe Sacred Kingdom, and then right back to season 4. Yeah. But again, it is not directly canon to Overlord, but it's a good palate cleanser because season 3 is just chaotic. It's not as dark as seasons 1 and 4, but it's definitely as chaotic.
They actually adapt stuff in season 3, like the first quarter of the season, it's adapted out of order.
It is, believe it or not.
And that is, I'm going to put the blame not on the writer, but I'm blaming the Madhouse for that. For adapting the early side of order, because the first quarter of the season, that's book 8, middle season book 7, and the ending is book 9, which I thought was so weird of how they adapt. But
isn't book 8 the one with the lizard men, with the lizard tribes?
No, I think
that was season 2.
4.
That was season.
Yeah, season 2, 4.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so with this movie they go to try to reclaim the capital. They fight a bunch of demons. There's like this big battle in a square. Ainz is off someplace. A lot of the time he goes off screen to gather allies for whatever goes on the movie. At one point he disappears, so he sends a surrogate to take his place to work alongside our new character, Delta, who they refer to by the incorrect name in the movie, just like in the light novels.
Yep.
For some weird reason, I think she does use a machine gun in the movie, but she doesn't use it very much.
No, it's very briefly. It's like for one skirmish towards the end of the sequence.
And I'm like, that's the thing about her character. She is sort of, I think, if I remember correctly, I think she's a robot.
Robot cyborg of some kind.
Yeah, and she's got like a gun with her. And I am surprised that the girl with her is wondering, what the heck are you holding in your hand? She has not asked a question at all the whole time she's with her. And they kind of become close friends during the course of their like travel, like a tower, which when they get there, it becomes like a weird situation. It's like the kingdom they work for are actually the royals a bit corrupt.
Well, the I want to say the southern region because this kingdom was split in two.
Yeah, it's like they're very corrupt, and I think demiurge basically kind of indirectly exposed to corruption in the
Yeah.
southern part of the kingdom.
Yes.
And in the case of like deaths per se in this movie, there's not like on the named characters. I don't. I think maybe the leader expedition. I think she gets wounded, uh,
Yes.
but she doesn't die.
The
Like,
vassal, the vassal, the brother of the priestess, who is the vassal for the northern region of the Sacred Kingdom, he's he's killed and replaced by. Well, we're already in spoilers at this point. He's he's killed off and replaced by Pandora's actor, where it's revealed in the last scene of the film. I want to say he's killed, but I could be wrong.
yeah, and it's always great to see Pandora's actor. He's a great fun character. And I remember in season 4, he starts to refer to Ainz's father because he's the one who created him.
He's his one direct he's his one direct creation before the isekai, and I'm like, and he's completely embarrassed by him. Like, I was 12 when I created you. Like, why did why did I keep you around? Why didn't I delete you at any point?
And people forget the fact that he's voiced by Eric Vale, Pandora's actor,
Yep.
which is interesting though because um, some of the voice cast of the show, some of them are not as big as some others are. I mean, Liz Maxwell's kind of big, but not as big as let's say Sabat and Monica Riel.
No. Some big
Um,
names, but definitely
yeah,
bigger than others.
yeah. And those who think, does Christopher Sabat play a role in this show? He does. He appeared in one episode of season 2 as a bartender. And my guess is Funimation felt as though, hey, we have a character for you, Sabat. There you go. And he has like 2 lines in the entire show, and that's it for him for the entire series. It was the scene where Momonga first arrived in town, and when he goes to that bar before he becomes Venture, that barkeep is Christopher Sabat. Monica is in the show. I don't remember exactly which character she plays, but I know she's in the show. Best viewers on Streambo.com. Remove the space.
I think that's a bot.
Okay. All right. Um, and somebody asked, like, is Sonny Surratt in the show? I don't think he is. I've never seen him in dubcast for the show. He's not here. Sean Schimmel is not in the show at all because Sean Schimmel very rarely does anything outside Dragon Ball. I mean, the most recent he did that was not Dragon Ball was My Hero Academia Vigilantes. I was surprised that he's featured in the show. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah, he plays a character who is literally the show's like version of Superman, Mr. Captain Celebrity. And I'm like, really? So, out of all the shows he joins, he decided to join My Hero Academia as a character who only appears as Vigilantes, I think, like briefly in the final arc of the main series, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if you look at like a name like Chris Guerrero, he's the voice of Ainz Gold. He has done a good amount of roles over the years, but I would say if you think of him, Ainz is probably the first character people think of when people think of characters he's voiced. Though yes, he's also been in One Piece as well as the voice of. He was
Zoro.
one of the not Zoro. That was Sabat.
Okay.
Chris Guerrero voiced 2 characters. He voiced one of the warlords, who was recently featured in one of the cutaways in Wano. The one who can control shadows.
Mm.
Gamora, I think the name is. who he's basically like this giant of a guy, where he basically takes people's shadows away, and that's Chris Guerrero. The other character, I do not know why he was brought in, because this character already had a voice actor, and then they replaced him after a few episodes, and that's the giant Hirogen, who's part of New Giant Pirates. That's also Chris Guerrero as well. He featured other stuff, but look at someone like Liz Maxwell. This show, she's in My Hero, obviously, as Midnight, but she's had a good amount of roles. I mean, people do know her and other stuff. I would say of all the upcasts, she's probably of the main characters. She's probably the biggest name of all the main characters for the show, because she's very popular in a lot of circles. Kykodis, I don't remember the name of the voice actor, but Kokaitis. He was the guy who goes, here's the thing, in the books, he speaks very slowly. In the show, he speaks normally. In the sub, he also does speak slowly for some weird reason. But the the dub has always speaks normally. The first anime I heard him in was actually Ace Attorney. He is the voice of Dick Gumshoe. Like, that's who voices Kykodis. Kyle Phillips is in the show, and he's the voice of the Talking Penguin. The one who's the assistant he's the assistant butler. And he's so funny of a character. It's said he'll appear in season 2. Because, and the weird thing is, he's not in Isekai Quartet. I would have thought he'd been perfect for Isekai Quartet because he's so funny. It's like, I'm going to take over Nazareth because I can clean the best. But after it's all exposed, our new character decides to start a religion to worship Ainz as a god, and establishes the branch there, which Ainz says, no problem with that. I'm sure that Albedo probably loves it. Given the fact, oh look, it's actually a religion that worship Ainz as a god. But the movie itself, if you think about it, it's a straightforward story per se, a good amount of action. Animation looks gorgeous because Madhouse does a great job with it per se. Ainz at one point is briefly seen sort of faking his death in the movie in order to foil the bad guys, which in the book and movie they kept this in where Albedo was actually against this idea. But basically what kind of we described, that's the movie in a nutshell.
All in all, I give it a 8 out of 10. I give it an 8 because it does cut some stuff from the novel. Some of the character dynamics can be a bit rushed, and the fast pace. I'm not going to say it's too fast, but it's fast enough to notice, especially if you've actually read the light novels.
Yeah,
like it is in the novels, in the source material, things are a bit more gradual, but here it is like a lightning in a box. It is just like go 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 go. That is.
Yeah, so I'm looking at basically. So, okay, so the book has basically. So our Squire character name is Nia Bajra. That's her name.
Yes. The
paladin, who we see a lot of movies before she becomes insane, is Remedius Casito. It's a good thing this book has got character profiles. So the main story of book 12 is 266 pages. For Paladins, they came book 1. Book 2 is longer. Book 2 is 378 pages. That's how long this book is.
About 160 page difference between the two books.
Yeah, I would say if you think of basically which book got the better adaptation in the movie, I'd say book 12 got much better
Yes.
than book 3, the book 13. Um, do I? One question I think a lot of people think like, oh, because all the stuff was cut. Do I think that we could see a director's cut for this movie? If there's demand for it, Madhouse probably would do it. But Madhouse doesn't do director's cuts.
They're not known to do direct. I think the only one they ever did was for Space Dandy, and that was just for the complete series. And that was, I think, for the epilogue and that was just a recap movie for for Dandy, for Dandy Space. Not Space Pirate, Dandy Space. No, wait, that was Studio Bones who did Dandy, wasn't it?
I think so.
Okay, that's the only one I've known that's done a director's cut. But yeah, Madhouse isn't known for doing that.
Like, if they want to do director's cut of anything, I think this movie is probably or the only thing I could think of. This is probably the first thing I would probably give a director's cut to this movie because that or do a kind of split the movie in half because I think that's what they should have done. Split the movie in half so they give more time to adapt the book. Because I think that was the ultimate problem. They had to make it one movie instead of two movies. Because if they made it two movies, they probably would have given it more breathing room and give it the same amount of runtime.
Agreed, because Book 12 is mostly the introduction to the Sacred Kingdom, the Ainz's intervention, and everything leading to Yabala. Not Yabala. Basically, Book 3 carries a lot of the Book 13, excuse me. Book 13 carries a lot of the action. There's not a lot of story progression in Book 13.
Yep.
At least not as compared to Book 12.
Yep. Also, Book 13 does feature Ainz in the cover. Book 12 has Demiurge in the cover.
Yep. Momon, that's the Night Persona's name. Oh my God, I've been
Knight of Darkness, who he's mentioned in the movie, and I think he makes a brief 2-second cameo in the movie, but he doesn't do anything.
No.
And they mentioned the reason why they couldn't use it because he's actually in charge of the patrols.
Yes.
That's why I think it's probably Pandora's actor posing as him.
Pretty much. Then the vassal gets killed, and then Momon. Well, technically, Pandora's actor has access to one of Ainz's teleportation rings, so he could just warp over, pose as the vassal, and strategize from there. It would be barely an inconvenience to him.
Yeah, he's technically the only major creation who is not a floor guardian. Because he's just the Nazarick's treasurer.
And Ainz/Momonga was embarrassed of him because he was a preteen when he created him.
And plus, also, he speaks with a German accent and he salutes like a Nazi.
One of these days, Nick, you're gonna get me. You're gonna get me.
A little salute that they do. He does it too as a joke.
Yeah. Okay. In Japanese education, they do not learn the gravitas and devastation of World War II till around middle school. Meaning, at least going based off that, Momonga was probably 12, right at 13, when he created Pandora's actor, like right when he joined Nazarick.
Yep, and the real life, the guy, I think his name is Satoru, the guy who is Ainz/Momonga in the actual main story, the one who actually is talking a lot of the time. Because the world itself, actually, this is one thing that the Riki movies did include because the anime didn't include this at all. They actually do show Ainz's human form briefly. You don't show his face. You do hear him, but he does appear briefly in the recap. Where the virtual reality, because they describe the world that he comes from, it's sort of a post-apocalyptic wasteland, kind of, where basically it's not the atmosphere is not breathable, and they have to go outside wearing masks. And he has basically the device back of his head to connect him to the game, like he's part of the Matrix.
if it sounds more like a SAO, yes, it's a very similar vibe.
Except that in the case of SAO, they're actually able to get out of it after a while. And so this one, he's trapped.
Though to be fair, the SAO abridged is actually an improvement compared to the mainline dub.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Sword. I've read the first two light novels from Sword Online. I just haven't watched the anime yet.
Trust me, just go straight for the abridged version. You'll have a much better time.
There's a lot of episodes of the show.
Yeah. And then they recently tried to do a remake where a lot of the underhanded humor was toned down.
I think it was adaptation of Progressive. That was the alternate timeline books.
Mm. But SAO has its moments, but the story is lackluster. I will admit that. The story itself can be a little lackluster.
Yeah.
But back to this. All in all, I liked Overlord because again, it's an original story compared to what was essentially recap the other two films, at least on Crunchyroll, where they were essentially recap films with some added detail from the light novel sprinkled in. Which, unless you actually read the light novels, you wouldn't even know where to look for them.
Yeah, I think in the case the opening scene of the first one, I think it's from book one.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't own book one. I only own books 10 to 16 of the light novel. I don't
I
own
read,
book.
I read a fan translation. I will be the first to admit that.
Yeah, I actually started buying the light novels with book 12. I had to get because I wanted to get physical copies because of season 4 coming out. So I bought books 10, 11, and 12 to figure I've already read them already, just to compare. And with the exception of the name changes, season 4 does follow mostly the books really well.
Yeah, for the most part.
Though they have one scene from the anime, from the books, they said they cut out because they referenced it. You remember the scene where you have Philip? Oh, I'm going to plan a robbery of food, and they don't show it. In the book, they do, and I'm like, the scene probably wouldn't take very long to animate. I was shocked the fact they cut it out. It was like probably one of the biggest cuts they made was this one scene that sparked this whole thing. Because if you watch the scene, you watch the rest of the anime, like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, he and a bunch of drunken nobles raid a food on not an envoy, but a cargo of food and supplies, which then leads to a trade dispute and then sets up a war with the Riestes kingdom. The whole thing stems from a trade dispute.
Whole scene is cut out of the anime.
They plan it. I want to say they plan it in season 4, episode 6. They plan it. The war breaks out, and then he gets his comeuppance when he's tortured by Albedo at the end of the season. But the heist itself is never shown.
I'm not sure why. I would have thought that would be a really cool scene to see, but nope, they cut it.
Because the whole even when Nazarick and Ain's forces are planning it, the whole thing boils down on a random aristocrat being a complete idiot and taking the bait. Like, this is a pretty obvious ploy. If you actually look, especially when you watch the season on the rewatch, no way in the setting is anyone this stupid enough to risk a trade dispute with the Riestes kingdom. Like, no one is that goddamn stupid.
One thing I love about season 4 is that it gave Albedo a lot of screen time.
Yes.
I'm sure Liza Maxwell, she must have loved it because I'm sure she loves voicing Albedo. But I think anybody watching her were probably so surprised at how many episodes she's featured in season 4. She's practically featured like in the case of the first season, she does miss some episodes. It's say they were 2 and 3, but this one she's like almost every episode.
Just about. The only one she's not, or at least she doesn't play a major role in, is the midpoint when you actually get to the war portion itself, because that's mostly comprised of Sir Gallic's death with Ain's army, and although the princess's betrayal isn't directly shown, well, it's somewhat okay. That was another critique of season 4. The princess's betrayal for Climb is alluded to, but it's not directly shown off screen. Like she made the deal with a bad and became a demon off screen. In the novels, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, and she was obsessed with Klein.
Like this
Klein
is
did, Klein did not feel the same way about her as she did him.
Klein felt indebted to her because despite her nobility and being the princess, she was kind to him and gave him his station.
Unlike
So
everybody else, basically is a monster to them.
yeah, Klein is more akin to puppy love. The princess is full blown yandere.
Yes.
And
Now, the thing is, Klein has never shown interest in any other woman aside from maybe sort of a love to the princess. But
wait, what about not the vampire girl, the shot that elite party where the older woman teases him a lot? Does that count, or is that just her teasing?
teasing.
Okay.
Yeah, and she is uh well her group basically like they flee the kingdom, they become fugitives because of this war. And the leader is pretty much like knocked unconscious because she is well, and I'm not following the enemy for this, they made her a complete idiot.
Mm.
And she's voiced by Jade Saxton.
Hmm.
And
She
it's
does.
something you
She
get
does
something
fall. Go ahead.
like basically the big woman teases Klein. Like it's like so drastically different from other roles that Colin Clickenbeard has done. People probably don't recognize the fact that is Colin Clickenbeard.
Yeah, because she's written, at least in this, she's written to be a dumb brute. In the light novel, she wasn't as much. She had at least a bit more going on for her. But in the show, in the anime proper, she's kind of a brute.
Yeah.
The,
And Evil Eye, it's like she's not the lead of the group, but she acts like she's the leader half the time, despite the fact that the one who's the Blue Rose, she's the one who actually is in charge of the group. Evil Eye seems like she is, and she has things for Momon.
Momon, yeah, she completely falls for him by the end of the season.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that of all the members, she's probably one person to be accepted by the Source Kingdom problem because she's a vampire.
Yeah,
And I'm sure Shalti probably would love to have her as a subordinate, but
I don't think they're ever referenced again after the Re-SD war. They
yeah, I
become
thought that was kind of weird. It's like they really don't do anything aside from briefly appearing a few episodes season 4, and then they do nothing.
yeah, but after fleeing the Re-SD kingdom during its collapse and going on the run, they're never seen again.
Yeah, and I kind of put the blame on the writer for that, not the anime.
Yeah.
They may feature in the last 2 books. Who knows? We'll find out whenever they finally get released.
But I will say this: we're coming up in the 1 hour mark. I will say this because I implore you, do not first of all, if you actually are a teenager, mid-teen, what are you doing reading this series to begin with, let alone watching this video? Because this is a very dark series if you had to go off the light novels. And second, in the light novels, the princess's betrayal was worse. In the anime, they allude to it. They allude to everything from the betrayal to Klein's resurrection and the demon pact. In the light novel, they literally show the princess claiming Klein. And I'm using these words very meticulously because I don't want to get demonetized. Like, it is dark.
Yeah, and and the thing is, like, the one Noel who was working with basically the princess's brother, who actually gets killed off in season 4, uh, he worked with Ainz because he was on a list of good nobles. All the rest were killed.
Yes. Yes. Oh, the advisor to the brother. Okay. Yeah. He
Yeah,
folded almost
he
immediately.
yeah he was the marquis because I think he wanted to protect his family,
Yeah.
which probably a smart idea. And like he kept the palace, like it's surprising he kept the palace intact, despite the fact that his troops, like basically in a way, most of the royal family is gone, except as the princess.
And Cocytus pretty much froze half the main city, or at least leading up to the city.
Yeah, and there was a swordsman he had a lot of respect for. Like, as soon as he froze him, he just walked around him, didn't touch him at all.
Circled the block and kept walking as a gesture of respect.
And I don't think it's like I don't think he's dead. He just simply is frozen.
Okay, because I was off the impression that he just one-shotted him and just, walked around his body.
I mean, he could be revived. There's nothing that says he can't be because I'm sure he's a very good swordsman.
Yeah, true. And I want to say it was either Gerald or Gallet. He requested not to be revived in his duel with Lord with Ainz. He requested not to be revived.
Yeah, and also his sword, I think, is in the hands of Ainz now.
Yes, Ainz took it as a trophy.
I'm sure he probably keeps it in his throne room someplace. I would not be surprised because he has a lot of respect for Gones. He probably is going to make it. He probably people might think of the kingdom, people who survived, probably think that he probably makes this thing as of a insult. Probably from his due respect, he could make a statue of him.
True.
Because he had a lot of respect for him.
But yeah, if you actually... Okay, because technically I did go ahead and rewatch season 4 and a rewatch leading up to this since we had the extra time. But so many red flags went off in my head. Like, how are they not piecing this together? Like, do they not know that in any scenario Climb's in danger, she's gonna throw the royal family under the bus? The first chance she gets, like, you are literally playing with fire.
Yeah, and she's made to an imp. Usually, imp is like a small demon, but technically, that's what she is now. She's an imp. She has like small wings.
Yes,
but her size is not reduced.
No, she retains a humanoid form, but she does lose her humanity as a contingent of the pact. I think she makes it either with Albedo or she makes it with Shaltir.
Albedo. She's basically Albedo's subordinate.
Okay.
But the thing is, after this arc wraps up, in the anime, after what happened book 14, the princess is not even featured in books 15 and 16 because that focuses on the elves. Because that's where they go next. They go to the elf kingdom in books 15 and 16, which I'm like, it's about time because they wait a long time to get to the dwarves in the show.
They did.
Because, like, if you watch like the first quarter of the season, it's basically like it seemed like that arc was set up way back in season 1, and this is basically the payoff. And this is my honest opinion. They did book 10 really well in season 4. Really good job with book 10. 11, I'd say the pretty good job with that one too. 14, I think was okay.
Yeah, because the only thing you really needed from book 14 was the fall of the Resti Kingdom, Princess Rhaenyra's selling out the royal family, and Climb's death and resurrection.
Yep.
Those were really all you needed in terms of adapting book 14. Technically, Princess Rhaenyra's pact with Albedo technically happened in the tail end of book... Well, I'm not going to say tail end of book 13 because that's when Sacred Kingdom wrapped up. But around that time.
Yeah.
It was like at the very beginning of book 14. Very, very beginning. I want to say it was...
They do cut out one scene, book 10. Do you remember the Cardinal Village from the first 3 seasons of the show?
Yeah.
There is a scene in book 10 the anime cut out.
Okay.
It was a scene because the pharmacist and the chief got married. The one who was his childhood sweetheart. Okay. They got married. And they're just sharing bed together. It's a brief scene. I'm not going to talk more about it because you don't want to get demonetized, but it's happened like very early on in book 10 before they go off to the Dwarf Kingdom. And this was completely cut out of the anime.
Yeah, because at least the last time they were shown was at the tail end of season 3, where he had just about won her at that point.
He already confessed his feelings for her, and she accepted.
Yeah, you really didn't need the scene at that point. It would have been decent fan service, but you really didn't need to adapt the wedding scene at that point.
It wasn't necessarily a wedding. They got married off screen. They were just sharing a bed together.
Okay. Okay.
Like this could be a quick, like 3 minute scene. Um, I'm not going to mention what she's wearing because basically you would think like, oh, don't bring it up right now because it's very adult. But thing is, these two are kind of adults-ish. These two characters.
In terms of
Um,
the setting, I get what you mean in terms
yeah,
of the setting.
yeah. So it's perfectly natural for this to happen. And technically, when she got married to the pharmacist, she became uh, the granddaughter-in-law of the pharmacist of the original pharmacist, Elizabeth.
Yes, because the he's technically the apprentice to his grandmother.
And she's basically the granddaughter-in-law.
Yep.
Um, Sister doesn't do much at all. Like, from what I can tell, she encourages the relationship, she supports it, but she doesn't do a lot after like book 3. It's like you could kind of say that season 3 kind of wrapped up that story, but this is basically kind of like a quick epilogue to that. After that, they're not featured again. After the Carnival is even mentioned after book 10.
Not really. A few references here and there, but nothing beyond that.
Yeah, and that is actually the fault of the novels, not the anime.
No. But,
It would have been feature it like in the first episode. That would have been quite nice. No,
if you trimmed the fat, you probably could have gotten it out of the way. If you trimmed the fat.
The one scene I was so happy they included it was a scene where you had Albedo and the female dark elf sitting on Ain's lap. That was from the book. I thought that was kind of hilarious. I love that scene in the book, and I was so happy they adapted it for the anime. And they're sitting on his legs, not where you think they're sitting.
We get it. He's a skeleton. He's literally trapped in his avatar body, so there's practically nothing there.
Yeah. So I thought it was a funny scene. Like, here's Albedo, like a fully grown woman sitting on a man's lap, and you have an elf girl sitting in his lap too. First, it's both elves, and then it's basically one elf gets off, and you have Albedo sit on his leg too. I just thought this was so funny, especially since both of them have a thing for him. But Albedo's more stronger. But the thing is, he did that. He regrets it. Like, he mentioned it once briefly in season 1, and it's never brought up again.
Yeah, because because the game. Okay. The reason. All right, you know what? I'm just gonna do this quick recap. Basically, prior to the original. Oh, what's up, Tevia? Prior to the original game shutting down and him getting isekai, he altered Albedo's character background. Now he regrets it immensely. He does regret doing it. But every time at least in the light novels, it's brought up a couple of times. But at least in terms of how the fact that the main reason Ainz won't reciprocate Albedo in any way is because, he altered her settings and he feels bad about it. But Albedo does become aware later on, not in terms of, Momonga and him getting isekai, but to where she dreads the other supreme beings / other players. She goes on to resent them later on in the story. And indirectly sabotages Ainz's efforts to connect with people.
As far as I can tell, like, by the most recent book, they have not resolved the plot thread of how Ainz got up there and where are all the rest of the supreme beings. There's no mention of them. It's like it was there at the beginning, and then it's like not mentioned afterwards. I'm hoping those 2 books basically bring this up.
Which you could write out, because at least in the original scene, a couple of players, came in to chat and reminisce with Momonga prior to the server shutting down. But just about everybody logged out before midnight. Momonga was the last one left.
And he tried to log out, but he was not able to. And he had, and of course, like, it's anything for ReZero. Like, he gets isekai, Subaru does. And by the most recent book, they never explore how the heck he got isekai in the first place or why he was brought there.
And the reason we bring this up is because in most isekai stories, there's some type of inciting incident. Mystical intervention, the mythological truck-kun, the sacrifice himself and trying to fend off a mugger. There's always a catalyst in place. in both ReZero and with Momon with Ainz, it's never explained. He's just suddenly isekai'd when the server shut down.
In the case of Sakatane Evil, a former employee pushed him off a train platform and hit by a train.
Yes.
In the case of Katsuma, he died of embarrassment because of a slow-moving tractor. Well, he thought it was a truck, but it was like a tractor. But in the case of the other ones, they're just summoned, per se, some of them.
Yeah, it's either directly summoned or they were unalived and given a second chance after death.
Yeah, and some of them basically, it's like the way they show it in the anime for a lot of these ones, it's like the space-time continuum, the sky just opens up, and then here comes the heroes could plop on the ground.
Yeah, examples of this would be Afareta. That would be to where that's an entire ensemble who gets into isekai, not just one person.
But at least they have a reason for it and how they got there. That one.
Yes.
The anime does something really stupid. They show this in a flashback. They go straight to the main story. They practically skip over some stuff in the. I like some stuff they have for the season 1 of the show, but the first section of book 1 was like skipped and then adapted for flashbacks. Like the scene where before they got there, that was happening for a short OVA.
Yeah, they repurposed it. And yeah, an unpopular kid who usually keeps to himself, but because of one gesture in middle school, he then bags the most popular girl in school, but he's too dense to realize it. It's corny, it's unrealistic, but is it really worth magic bolting someone off a ledge over?
Yeah, and the series becomes a bit dark at the beginning, and then it becomes kind of funny afterwards.
Yeah.
Like he does meet basically like the main female lead of the show.
Yue.
Yue, who's voiced by Tina Bauer, who does a great job voicing her, and she's funny. Yue is hilarious in the show. Yeah, she's weird, but like after that first portion, we get used to Shia. She's hilarious too, and I met her voice actress this year, Amanda Lee, and she loves his character. I'm not gonna get into what to do with the dragon because when people think of this anime, and I brought this up to Amanda Lee, even she agrees. Like, of all the things you bring up the thing what he did to the dragon. Out of everything the show does, that's the first thing you bring up. I'll talk about.
I've seen Afareta. I know what you're talking about. I'm just not going to address it here live.
Yeah, but of all things bring up, you don't bring up the fact the isekai stuff, or the fact the man lost an arm or an eye. Nope. You bring up what he did to the dragon in later half of the season. That's the first thing you bring up. Like, there are other stuff that happens in this show aside from that. At least season 2 does a great job, a much better job adapting the light novels than the first season does. Much better.
The latter half of season 1 is mostly gags, but T.O. gets a lot more to do season 2 going forward.
And here's the weird thing about season 2. The epilogue book 4, which they got to book 4 of their season 1, they adapted alongside with adapting book 5 for the season. And by the time they finished up season 2, I think they had just gotten to, I think it was book 6. I think it was. They just got book 6.
They had just entered a couple of chapters into book 6.
They practically cut a whole character out of the last book they adapted. Then they just featured him on a flashback in season 3. It's the prince's sister. Yeah, this is her little brother, who actually gets referenced in later story where she actually protects the daughter of the country who's attacked by the rat people from the other rat people. And basically, as a thank you gesture, the king arranges basically for his daughter to be engaged to the princess's little brother, because he couldn't get the eldest son because the man is a massive dick. Oh my gosh. He does something with the princess I'm not going to bring up on here because I was When the scene came out, I'm like, really? We have to bring this scene here? Okay, fine. It doesn't last very long. I was not very happy they put the scene here. It's the scene with the princess and the prince where he, you know, tried to do her, and then, of course, basically, Hajime saves her life from it. And what happened to him? Thank you, Rappy, for doing that. Thank you for killing him because the man was a jerk. He deserved what he got. He's probably one character in the show who anybody can see it like, yeah, he deserved what he got.
I believe a close second would be the one who originally magic bolted Hajime off the cliff, because he does get a comeuppance in season 4. Well, that just leads to him striking down Korori.
There hasn't been season 4. The last season they aired was season 3.
I'm sorry, I'm got them mixed up. That was a season 3 episode. Excuse me. But yeah. Hajime doesn't do the deed himself. I think Yue ends up doing it.
Yeah. And I know the show is a standard type of thing with a harem type of anime where a lot of the girls fall for him, but not every single girl does. Some of them do, but not all of them. But it feels very natural where they fall for him. The one girl in his group that he travels with in season 3 who does not fall for him is the shorter one, who was one shorter than Tia.
Yeah, but she's the mermaid, but she's like a little girl. She's practically a surrogate daughter.
Not her. The one who's a brunette. The one that came with his class.
That's his teacher.
No, not the teacher. There's another girl.
Shizuku. Yes.
She does not fall for Hajime. She's in love with the guy with muscles.
Wait, are we talking about the healer or the one with the ninja sword?
Not the sword, the guy who basically is almost like a bodybuilder.
No, I'm trying. Okay, there's Shizuku, and then there's another girl who acts as a mage healer.
She the one who was a healer. She's in love with Hajime, the other girl.
Okay, the one with the mage healer. Okay, I was about to say because Shizuku does go to fall.
She's a brunette. She wears like a white shirt, khaki dress, skirt, and she has like her magical power. She makes barriers.
Yep, that's her. Yeah,
she's actually one girl in the group who is not in love with Hajime because she's in love with not Katori, but the other guy.
It's either Kakui or I don't know how to pronounce his name.
The one who's actually of the 3 guys in the group, he's the tallest.
Yeah, but Kakori.
And it's implied he has thing for her too.
But Kokori, not to spoil Alpharetta, but Kokori, I'm not going to say he's Vegeta-esque per se, but at the very least he has a bit of an ego to where he gets roped in the mind loop in the lab. I don't know if it's a mind loop per se, but definitely a contingent of the labyrinth to where he gets trapped in it the longest.
Yeah, he's very arrogant in season 1. And then I think by season 2 he took a chill pill.
Yeah, he was
because he's so full of himself.
Yeah. By season 2, he was definitely but he doesn't go on to be fully humbled until after he gets trapped in that hell loop.
Yeah, and all these when they have all the labyrinth people, each one of them are basically part of this group called the Liberators, and the second labyrinth they go to, the one who is voiced by Sarah Weinerhoff, Mel, I think her name is, the one that Heidi described as the most annoying person in the world, which I thought that was kind of funny. And heck, even when I met the past version of her friends are like, "Yep, that's true."
She's annoying. Yep, she's annoying.
Yeah, and I like the OVA. The OVA I'm talking about is the cross between the parent series and the prequel series.
Yes.
Which I thought that was so cool that they did this. And I kind of wish they would adapt it for Zero. It's not a long series. It's only 6 books compared to the parent series, which is 14. But these books are long. Oh my god.
Are we still talking about Alpharetta or are we still talking about Real Zero?
Aphrodite. I
Okay,
usually
that's the one with the Liberators and Labyrinth. Okay,
yeah,
that one is about
yeah. I've never
6
heard anybody pronounce it. I just call it Freya because I've called it for a long time. So it's Aphrodite. That's how you pronounce it.
to at least my understanding of the title is Alpharetta.
Yeah, I've
But
never heard anybody else ever pronounce anything else, so I just call it Freya.
but yeah, the prequel series, it's about 6 volumes, give or take, 6 or
Yeah, but
7.
they're long. Oh my gosh! Like the last book is like about 500 pages. So it's like each book you could do one full season of an anime for.
It's doable, but it's probably after what happened with Fatora for Danmachi, they're probably not gonna. Well, you actually get more out of it than you would for Fatora, because at least with Fatora, that's just Ein's. That's just ain't Anais. I forget her name. Anais POV, and it ties into her squire, who's alleged to have feelings for, or at least a crush on her. And then it ties into a deeper lore with both her and Belle being descendants of the Zeus familia, and it's just a whole thing.
Yeah. Um, I think the one thing that season four should get, I think this is the one season that should get a director's cut for season four of that show because the first part of the season was done really well. It's the second half basically should get lower fixing because they gutted the first portion to start, but the rest was fine.
Yeah,
I think like one episode needs it because like the rest of the show was great. Like, well, with the exception of the last 2 episodes of season 2, they adapted one story from book 8. One story, and there was a lot more in that book that they skipped. The one thing the recent season did is actually, I think it was one book. Actually, no, it wasn't 15. It was actually 16, 17, 18. I think it was 16, 17, 18. That's what season 4 adapt, 5 adapted.
yeah.
15, they adapted 2 stories from that one for the first episode, but there's nothing that says that they can't do full adaptation of that book because
You could split that off into a movie, or at the very least, a freemium mobile game, similar to what Eminence and Shadow did.
yeah, they've done one movie for the series, and it's a movie that came out for season 1 for the show, and it's complete and original. It's actually pretty good. There's a reference to something that happened in season 1. They pick up the movie, and he's like, "Nope, not going through this again." You know what I'm talking, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm like, good, because he has not gone through that again because it was not his fault. It was Hermes' fault. Even though he's blamed because he kind of was one who was caught doing it. But the thing was, it was all Hermes.
No, Hermes bailed. Like that's the thing. He bailed.
But it was Hermes' fault the fact he did that. Because for him, it was a complete accident.
But yeah, I think like at least in the context of Danmachi, it's an open secret that although Belle is not directly Zeus's child, at the very least he's a child of someone who was partnered in his familia.
I
And
think
then
he first was his grandfather.
yeah, his grandfather is essentially Zeus, but whether he's his adoptive grandson via the mortals in his familia or his paternal grandson, it's not alluded to. But my money's on that Bell is his adoptive grandson via his familia.
Yeah, and the thing with the dub, when I first started watching the series, I was only familiar with 2 voice actors. Hestia's voice actress, Lucy Christian, and Wells' voice actor, who is David Wade. Aside from that, I was not overly familiar with them, though Bell's voice actor did take over for the lead in Another World with My Smartphone. I was curious for a while what happened. Like, why did Josh Grell bail? Why did he leave? And then I asked Joe Harris about this at Tampa Comic Con 2 years ago. What happened? He asked to be replaced.
Oh, so he left on his own accord.
Yes, he did.
Oh.
Unlike in the case of what happened with like High School DxD, where there was a legal reason why he had to leave, which I'm not going to go into it here because I discussed a few times on my YouTube channel what happened. If you want to know what happened, Look it up online because it is disgusting what he did.
Yes, and any further mention of it, thank God I'm still considered a small channel because I would definitely get demonetized by the
Yeah,
reference of it.
yeah. So that those two are the ones I know of where what happened with the lead voice actor, why they got replaced. The other two, I'm hoping I find out soon of what the heck happened. Because tomorrow, not tomorrow, Friday, I'm going to Tampa Comic Con, where in the case of one of the shows, I think it's uh actually it's not this one I'm finding out with actually the two anime with the lead voice actor place. I probably have to wait till I get Shogi Expo to find what happened because I don't think the voice actor is going to be at Comic Con though. Um, I'm gonna hopefully get you now. Sadly, put basically one voice actor I was really hoping to see, and she had to postpone her appearance because she's like super busy. Christina V. I was hoping to see her again, but alas, couldn't happen. Um, in ReZero, she's the voice of Elsa, and in Konosuba, she's the voice of Darkness. But I'm going to meet on Friday. I'm going to meet. I'm going to see Trisha Nomura. Trisha Nomura. She actually is. I don't think she actually is an Overlord, but she is in some other. And she's most, but she's known for doing Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia. In Attack on Titan, she's the voice of Mikasa. In My Hero Academia, she's the voice of Earjack. There's also Mallory Roderick. I'm going to hopefully get a chance to meet her first time. And Abby Trott, who fans know her for two anime. Nezuko from Demon Slayer, and for a recent anime, Momo from Dandadan.
Which is a very good anime. It does get a little zany.
It is bizarre. It is bizarre to say the least.
To say the least. But
it's one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. It's fun, but so bizarre. And it's not JoJo Bizarre Adventure, mind you.
Oh no, it's not JoJo Bizarre, but by any means. But it's weird. It can get weird enough at places.
Yeah, and the lead voice actor show, he's going to be at Shogi Expo in September, and I currently don't have anything for him to sign because he's not in a lot of stuff. The guy who voices Arun-kun, he's not in a lot of stuff. I checked Abby Trott too. I looked at her catalog. She's not in a lot of stuff at all. You find it kind of odd when it comes to her? Like, I have a list of my favorite characters. I've only seen her like in 10 shows. I'm also going to be on Sunday because he's not going to be there Friday. Bryce Probakuk, who some people know as the voice of these characters. Eren from Attack on Titan. Rin from Blue Exorcist. Meliodas from Seven Deadly Sins. Inosuke from Demon Slayer. And Caesar Zeppeli from JoJo Bizarre Adventure Battle Tenacity. He's going to be interesting to meet. And plus also, he is the voice of a character from an anime my niece loves. Like, it's the one featured Ladybug and Cat Noir. I think you're familiar with that show, right?
Through my niece, though, at least from what little I've seen, it drags out. Like, at this point, just wrap it up.
Yeah, my niece loves the show, and my niece doesn't like crowds very much, so I put on a list of my favorite characters from Bryce, and I put on my niece's name and the character he voices from that show. Because that's the only thing she's seen. She's not seen any of the stuff he's been in. And it's not her fault. She's only 5. So she has plenty.
She's entertained by it. I'm not going to take that from her.
Yeah. But she's also into stuff like Disney. I got her into watching Winnie the Pooh, which she likes that, but she's like Tigger. Her words when it comes to Tigger, Too bouncy.
Hmm.
That was her words, not mine. It's going to be really interesting Tampa Comic Con this weekend because this will be my 10th time going to this con. 10th. First time I went to this con was back in 2014. I only missed 2.
Well, I hope you enjoy it, buddy. You've
Yep.
definitely earned it.
Yep.
But I think now seriously, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Y'all have been a terrific audience, especially over almost 55, well, 51, excuse me, 51 people attended the stream tonight. Even though we didn't get a whole lot of engagement, I still appreciate y'all coming on. It is truly a pleasure and an honor. But now we're down to final thoughts. Final thoughts. This movie, as an adaptation, definitely would have improved if it was split into two and made it to a duology. It would have gotten a lot more breathing room. But as is, it's straightforward. It doesn't take too much away. It doesn't take too much away, and it's an original story set halfway through season 4. I like I said, I'd give it an 8, with the only drawbacks being the pacing.
Yeah, another problem with the movie is the fact that they, like, I think this movie was announced at the same time they announced season 4 of the show. And it's like they kept putting up when they're going to announce the release of this thing, and then finally release it, and it gets released fine. It's just that I don't know what took so long. It's like there was motion for season 4, which came out in 2018. Not 2018. It came out in
2019.
not 2019 because 2018 was season 2 and 3.
Okay.
I think this last season came out in 2022. I think it was just 3 years ago.
Yeah, about 2022.
I'm not sure why it took 2 years to release this movie. Either that they were caught up with the season or they just didn't have time to work on it. I'm not sure what was the reason for it.
You could tell that they were in pre-production around the same time, but I feel like the more than likely what happened, especially with shifting with the loss of manpower due to COVID, season 4 just became a bigger priority, and they just delayed the movie.
Yeah, but even when the season was finished, at least when they were getting close, at least when they finished making the season, they should at least continue with it. But I don't know what Madhouse was up to. And as for what the future is for Overlord, because there's nothing been announced. Like, we don't know when the next light novel is coming out at all. Book 17 is not released yet. We don't know if there's going to be a season 5 or not. There is maybe the material to do a season 5 to do adapt 2 books per season, but that's all they can do.
But they're more than likely just going to make another movie out of it to cover the elf arc. They're more than based on what we've seen at the time of the stream.
Right now, anyways, the only thing they're hyping up is Freerin Season 2, which comes out next year.
Which we might actually do an Anime Blaze review on Freerin, because that is actually a pretty good series as well.
It's good, but the first season is long. 28 episodes.
It's definitely a slow burn, but people are enjoying it.
Yep. Yeah, and this series, a lot of people thought with the Crunchyroll Award, this one should have won Anime of the Year, not Solo Leveling. I don't think it's Solo Leveling, but a lot of people a lot more love with this show than it is Solo Leveling.
Wait, Solo Leveling, isn't that a Korean story?
Yes. That was the anime. And the lead voice actress, Mallory, she was nominated for Best Voice Actress for English, and I voted for her. But Alexis Lee won it. Which I'm like, bummer. Not the guy I voted for.
It'd be like that.
At least the case this time, I at least actually saw some of the stuff they voted on, because the previous year, a lot of the stuff I never saw at all. Which I'm glad they did a little better with that.
But any final thoughts for you on the film, Nick, before we go into outros?
This should have been a 2-part movie.
Doesn't get any more direct than that. But but as for me, you can find me at JHeat Blaze, JHeat75. I also recently started a Blue Sky account called JHeat Blaze, so be sure to check that out as well. I might actually start doing some early posts on that as well for in polls for any upcoming content, any video ideas you want me to discuss, and video requests. But DC October solicitations, I still have to get in touch with Robert. So if we don't push for this coming week, it'll likely be early next week. And then from there, I believe we have Comic Blaze Nick, where we're going to do the Superman Birthright by Burns.
Uh, Man of Steel.
Man of Steel, thank you. And of course, New Direction versus Kingdom Come is in the works, but I'm working with Jared on that. But Nick, anything you want to promote?
I have some anime. Unless I go to work tomorrow, which that may even happen. I'm probably going to be working on some anime tomorrow. I got some anime I didn't get a chance to work on tonight. So I'll work on tomorrow. At least about 5 anime overall. Plus, I'm working on watching the Sentai Ninjanger, the one that was edited for Ninja Steel. Right now, I finished up just 2 days ago. I finished up Mobile Cop G-Bon. Now I'm on this show now. Which it's very interesting so far because I heard some stuff about the show before I watched it, like of how the lead character had the reputation of stealing other people's episodes. But I'm only like 5 episodes in, so I haven't seen much of that yet. Though when I start watching, I saw a lot of the characters being so arrogant to each other. Like, it's like, oh, they're ninjas, but they're arrogant. And a bunch of ego stroking. But that gets smoothed out after episode 2.
Though Ninja Steel went too campy with it. Now, I believe this was Ninja Steel was the last one in the Neo Saban era.
Yes.
With the super rebranding. I
Yes.
want to say it's the last one.
There's no denying it had a really good opening theme song. I love the opening theme song.
But as we've seen from many shows that come before and maybe after, a banger theme song alone, a good show does not make.
Yeah. And for one thing, the villain of the show is not some game show like it was in Ninja Steel. This time it's basically yokai. Which are not aliens like they were in Ninja Steel. They're just creatures from Earth who are just reimagining monsters from Kakaranger. And the main villain, who's Galvanex in Ninja Steel, he doesn't appear very much in Sentai. He appears, he's basically sealed villain. He's one of those, like, we seal him up and we build up to his character. That's basically the purpose of him. And Maimonius, who, like, oh, they made this character a woman, despite the fact in the Sentai it's clearly a guy with a feminine voice.
Yeah.
And I heard it came out that fact they couldn't do much more ninja stuff in it. Like they barely could do any ninja stuff in the show in the first place. Because it's not like they were killing people per se. It's like they couldn't do anything ninja. People think of ninjas in the show. Which, when I heard that, I'm like, well, that could explain why the content we have for the show.
Like, what do you mean they couldn't do ninja stuff? Like, was there a censorship thing, or was it?
I think it was like they didn't show, like, they weren't talking about killing people per se, but all the popular stuff ninjas are known for doing, they weren't allowed to do in the show. Like, do you remember any time they're using smoke bombs and they just make stuff disappear? I can't think of any time they did that.
Okay.
And the fact that it's a high school drama. In the Sentai, it's not that at all. The only reason why it's a high school thing because the writers were trying to recapture My Neighbor Power Rangers with that.
A lot of the Neo Saban seasons were trying to do that. I guess the only one that actively wasn't trying, at least unintentionally wasn't trying to do that, was Samurai. But that's because
and Dino Charge.
Samurai and Dino Charge, but that's because Samurai was a blatant copy and paste of Shukenja, almost to the point of parody.
According to the guy who played the Green Ranger, He said it was like that for the first 12 episodes, and then they stopped doing that.
Mm.
That's according to him, because I put it as a question for him when he appeared on Power Rangers Playback, and that's what he revealed about that. Mega Ranger, a lot of the problems with that show.
Wait, are you saying like Mega Ranger was the one that led to In Space? Are you saying Mega
No,
Force?
not Mega Ranger, Mega Force. A lot of the blame for that one can lay at the feet of mostly, from stuff I've heard, at the feet of Jonathan Zacher.
And the fact that Ghost Sager was a mid Sentai season to begin with.
Yeah, I enjoy Ghost Age of what it is. One thing I really enjoyed was a team movie they had with Shurikenger. That was awesome. And I also love the team they did with Gokaiger. That was amazing. Gokaiger's amazing Sentai season.
Don't even bother with Mega Force or Super Mega Force. Just go straight to Gokaiger. You'll have a much better time.
At least they do a much better job doing anniversary because they at least bring back actors from the previous seasons. Like, who did they bring back in Power Rangers in the anniversary episodes? Let's see. They brought back Jared and Mentor G. Okay. Despite the fact that Jared's counterpart was not brought back in the Sentai version, it was actually his sister brought back.
In the tribute episode, yes.
Yeah, and with a two-parter, not one episode. Let's see.
Casey's actor, but he scripted that episode, admittedly.
Yeah, and plus his counterpart did come back for the episode in Gokaiger. In the RPM tribute, they brought back nobody.
No, they just wrote off the Sentai footage. They didn't even bother using anything from RPM.
And here's the weird thing. Apparently, get this. I don't know if this is true. Apparently, on a nearby set when they were shooting Super Mega Force, two of the main actors from Ninja Storm were nearby. And they called them. And yet there is a Hurricane tribute in Gokaiger. You could have done that as a Ninja Steel tribute. Nope.
Wait, was it Pua? Was Pua one of them?
No, it was the actors who played Dustin and Tori.
Okay, they just happened to be in the air. Wait, they were in New Zealand?
Yeah, they were in the area.
Huh.
They were next door, and they chose not to bring them over. They could have. They also got brought over? The actors from SPD. You can have it where they came from the future to fight some villain. Nope. Let's just do a nothing tribute episode where we barely do anything with SPD. Because
okay, despite fumbling those major opportunities, that aside, it doesn't change the fact that Saban barely recently had gotten the rights back, and he had taken all of 2010 to write and film at least the first half of Samurai, not even the Super Samurai half with the Shogun mode. So he barely only had like a year and a half to work with between assets, choreography, and splitting everything apart from the Sentai. At least at least in terms of Samurai being such a downgrade Shukenger, I can forgive that because of the legal stuff going on at the time. That's forgivable. Megaforce was no excuse.
Yeah, and also their occupations from Shurikenger over to Samurai. The only one that was different was Blue. You know, Seth?
I did, because in Samurai, I mean, Kevin was a fisherman. Well, he was a swimmer going for the Olympics.
Yes. His counterpart was a kabuki actor. Everyone else made Green was like a carbon copy. Like, there was virtually no difference. Except the only difference is he in the Sentai he referred to Pink Ranger as Big Sis. That's the only major difference, and plus his father appeared in one of the episodes. Heck, all the characters' parents, the ones that were there, appeared. Well, Blue appeared briefly in one episode. It was kind of the same thing as Sentai. Pink, they actually featured her parents in the show.
Yeah, because the only one who's actually dead is the father of the Shiba siblings. That's the only one who's canonically dead.
Yeah, except that in Sentai, they weren't exactly blood related like they were in Samurai. Uh, so the story, I know it's a bit of a spoiler for sure, Kendra, but the thing is, the show came out over 15 years ago, so I can spoil it a little bit here. So the Red Ranger was not technically the actual head; he was a stand-in for the actual head, who was the
His
daughter of not his sister. Well,
adoptive sister.
actually, she adopted him as basically her son.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's what she did. She adopted him, a guy who's clearly older than she is, and she adopted him as her son. And then the joke is basically her retainer was trying to arrange a marriage for her. I'm like,
So
what?
she adopted an adolescent as a symbolic gesture, and then the mentor tries to match them.
Well, her retainer, the Axe Mentor, was he was retainer too, but he actually was a much better giving advice than Mentor G was.
Oh yeah, I've seen a few clips of Shukenja, so I can actually believe that.
Yeah, he was not as much of a jerk like he was in Shurikenger.
Samurai.
Yeah, Samurai. Samurai, he was a jerk. And also, if you watch Samurai, it seems like they spend more time training than actually, going out in public. And according to the actor who played Bulk, the reason why he barely interacted with the Rangers and why he wasn't seen a lot, because he was being flown over from LA to New Zealand for those scenes. And that show was the last time he appeared in Power Rangers. And from what I can tell, it wasn't due to some disagreement with Saban. It was due to they didn't need him.
Yeah, because outside of fan service, Bulk and again, that is the close. I know we're off topic here at this point, but that's the closest to an MMPR comparison or MMPR tribute in Samurai is the fact that Bulk's actor comes back and he's briefly mentoring his pseudo nephew, which is Skull's son, and the very fact that Skull. You know what? I think I can get away with this. But Skull got laid. I mean,
Yeah, and the thing is, it's implied he married Kimberly.
oh,
because Kimberly broke up with Tommy off screen.
Okay.
Weird John letter. And then, I'm not sure what happens to the guy, but it's implied that she marries Skull. But
there has to be some reference out there that confirms this.
Yeah, it's been a rumor for years. The rumor sparked from the fact they danced in one episode. And Tommy married Kat.
Which, okay, I will admit, at least within the context of MMPR, Kat does not have much of a personality. She's effectively Kimberly's replacement.
And the thing is, Catherine Sutherland mentioned recently when Power Rangers Public episode, one of the members of stuff. Apparently, after all these years, she's still getting hate for causing the breakup of Tommy and Kimberly, despite the fact she had nothing really to do with that. That was the writers doing that, not her. Let me blame her.
Amy had already left the show, and they had justified Tommy moving on to set up Kat with the Dear John letter. And I think the Dear John letter was like episode 19 of Zeo, if I remember correctly.
Yes. And then they took up Kat and Tommy, which they have a kid together, which the fact that they actually referenced him in the 30th anniversary story. They call him JJ, which the character himself actually appeared in Soul of the Dragon, which happened on SPD.
Likely named after Jason.
Yeah. And it's sad, though, that, well, since we're also going to get the brief thing with Ninja Steel, that anniversary episode, Dimensions in Danger, was the last time we ever saw Jason Frank in the show.
Yes.
Sadly, that was his last appearance. That was the last time we saw Gia, Antonio, Trent. Kat, of course, returned for the anniversary special. I think this was also the last time we saw TJ in the show.
No, TJ. No, that was fan made. That tribute for JDF, that online video for that online sketch as a JDF
thing where And this is the actor who played Red Downcharge. So I did this fan made film.
Yeah, Benjamin Benjamin Soya, something like that.
Yeah, where he and Kira, that Kira, that was the actress who played Gia from Megaforce, where they did a sort of unofficial team up for a fan movie, and they brought it and they had custom made suits for the short, and had the same morph sequence. He talked about it on his channel. The thing was made by a friend of his.
Huh.
And according to Sierra, the character Gia is named after Angelina Jolie. I'm like, well, you pick one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood to name after, which is a good idea to do. I don't know how Angelina Jolie feels about the fact a character's named after her, but I'm sure she's happy about it.
Yeah. But yeah, trivia aside, okay, I'm sorry, I just can't get out of that head. I might have overlooked because again, I only saw Shinkenger one time when I was like a teenager, so this completely went over my head. Like,
I saw it a few years ago on some other website. I actually watched on YouTube. Someone uploaded the entire series on YouTube and used really good subtitles with it.
But yeah, we might do a proper Power Ranger streamer discussion a later time. But yeah, it's just
It's getting kind of late. It's almost midnight right now.
yeah, especially if you're on the East Coast. But I think that's a place to call it. Like, comment, subscribe, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to, especially over 50 people on stream, mostly Twitter, but hey, we appreciate the engagement. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank y'all so much for watching. Flame off.